James, have we ever done a webinar together?
I think this is the first one that we've done together. I know it's hard to believe, but yeah, both of
It
us.
kind of is hard to believe. It's been 10 years, as everybody can tell from our graying hair and our decaying physiques here. Actually, James, you look wonderful. So it's actually my decaying physique. And why did we choose this one? Because this is a hard one. This is going to be a lot of information, but we're excited to share it with you today. So again, if you stumbled on here, this is AI and the future of family engagement. You have James Bright, who will introduce himself in a moment. My name is Dave Becker. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Campus ESP. I've been in tech for 25 years. A big part of that was when I was at Ellucian, SunGard, SCT. I was there for 14 years, and when I left there, I was a senior vice president of product over Banner. If you use Banner, I completely apologize for that. But hopefully, we made it up for you with Campus ESP. And we're going to talk about some really cool things that are coming down the line with Campus ESP, but more broadly, what's happening with AI, what you can expect. And then we have one other guest who I'm going to announce in a little bit. But James, let me throw it over to you. And you're going to be doing so much of the presentation from a tech perspective today. You mind providing some of your background?
Yeah, so some of you may know me. My name's James Bright. I'm the CTO and the other founder of Campus ESP. And I was lucky enough to start my career in IT right around when the internet just became a thing, and I feel like there's a lot of similarities. So this is kind of an exciting time. So a lot of the stuff that you guys all use, I participate in building. I work with Brooke. And yeah, like Dave said, we've been working together. It's hard to believe now, but it's been a full decade. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And when we get into it, I promise I will try not to bore you guys, but I think this is very, very exciting. And I'm really happy to be sharing a little bit of what we know about AI today.
And this is fun for us, the two of us getting together. And in case you did not notice, which you probably like based off of me not hearing any screams, seeing these before and after pictures of James and I and seeing how rapidly we've aged, your lines are on mute. So we can't hear gasps of joy or terror, I think. So if you have a couple minutes and you want to use the chat features, we are going to be watching the chat. We are joined by a third member of our party, Mel Greiner. Many of you know her. She's the what was that? We know she's the VP of marketing, and she's already messing with us. But if you want to put in your name and where you're from in the public chat, sometimes it's a great way to just kind of get the conversation flowing. The chat is there for you guys to interact with each other, and then we'll also be monitoring it and answering questions.
Right.
And there goes another window again. It's exciting right there.
Mhm.
All right. The third member of our crew. Oh, nope, we're going to do some introductions here. So our agenda. Look at that. I'm just trying to mess with Mel. There we go. Okay. So the agenda. Um, the agenda. These are the topics we're going to cover in the next 35 minutes. We're going to go through AI 101. That is going to be James. James is going to take you through all the terms. We're going to have a quick survey to see like how comfortable people are with things. Then we're going to get in for what it means to do training for trust. This is a big part of AI. And if you've heard about AI training, we're going to talk a little bit more about what that really means. We're going to talk about why ROI still matters. And then we're going to have a robot versus human competition. I'm going to be the human representative. That is not good for humanity. I will tell you that right now. However, we will see how it goes. And this is a good time to introduce our robot companion here, our clone, the clone of me, which is exciting for no one, maybe. But Mel, why don't you go to the next slide and we'll explain what's going on here. So one of the things we've done recently at Campus ESP is, of course, we're experimenting with AI. So we, on our website, we added essentially a clone of me. You can get there by going to campusesp.com, or you can by typing in that URL. It is basically a combination of information from my LinkedIn profile over the last 25 years, from our website, blogs, demos, research, everything in one kind of mastermind of parent engagement. And you might be like, I can just get that on the website. Why do I need to go there? What is going on over there? Now we have a Mel. I don't know if that's you or if that's
Nope,
me.
that's me.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's
Sorry.
James. We're trying to get used to this new system here. You can tell we're very professional. But anyway, this AI allows you to get instant answers, case studies, whatever you want in one place. You can also ask me weird questions. It really does have my personality in here. So to share with you what that looks like, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to try to do this. And all right, James, can you see that?
Yep. Looks
All
good.
right, so this is the chatbot. I'm assuming most of you have engaged with chatbots. However, I will do a quick scenario demo because this is going to be important when James is going to tie back to it and kind of demystify what's happening with the chatbot and what's happening from an AI perspective. So I'll just say, hi, Dave, you're on a webinar right now. And you're one of the presenters. Would you introduce yourself? Let's see. So not pretty basic stuff right there. Hopefully it doesn't do anything too weird. I never know. Hi everyone, I'm Dave Becker, CEO and co-founder of Campus ESP. I'm based in Philly, dad of twins. I spent the last decade helping colleges turn family engagement to better yield, retention, and parent giving. We work with 450 customers, yada, yada, yada. So that's pretty cool. I'll ask it some other stuff. Say, how often do you do webinars? Hopefully I can translate my gibberish there. Pretty regularly, we run a steady cadence year round with spikes around yield, orientation, fast, and fall kickoff. If you want the next dates or topics, I can share what's coming up. I'll also say you have twins. Which one is your favorite? Let's see what it says here. This could be dangerous. There we go. It's probably. I mean, if pressed, I might even provide more information there, but I like how it held back. And I'll ask one other question here. I was like, what's your favorite? Favorite that thing about James Bright? See what it says, James.
This will be interesting.
Yeah. It's like this is the awkward talk I never had with you. He obsesses over customers. If something breaks, he's the first to DM, apologize, and fix it. That's very true. We have a great story. That's kind of like one of our earliest stories together.
Yeah.
That sets the tone for our whole culture. Close second, he can translate gnarly tech into plain English, and we'll have to test him out today. I'll ask one more question. If he was a fish, if he was a fish, what kind of fish would he be? By the way, great pandering from this AI chatbot. So I might have this on speed dial. He's a salmon, upstream all day, finds the cleanest path, dodges bears, and somehow still ships on time. Also highly allergic to bloatware. That does not sound like me, James. So anyway, back to the presentation. I'm going to flip over here, but that is our AI chatbot, and I'll be having a human versus robot competition here in a moment. So let's get back to the agenda here. And I think we have a question to ask you guys first.
Yeah.
Right, Mel, we're going to jump into that. Whoop. Okay, so we just want to level set here. We want to see what's your personal comfort level with AI tools to see how comfortable you guys are with it out there. Personally, I'd say I'm a regular user and seeing the wins, but it's really helpful for us to know who's in the audience since we have close to 100 people here.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah. All right. So we have a pretty good segment of people who are still apprehensive. That's fine. We're going to try to demystify some of that stuff here today. I've tried it a few times. So about a third of folks have really kind of limited on the AI front. And then there is that small innovator crew of all in on AI. But most of the people are regular and they're seeing the win. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. James, is that helpful for you?
Yeah, that's great. That helps to set the stage there. So we'll test out my abilities to do translation here and see if I can help people understand this a little better.
All right.
Yeah. So with that, AI has been around for probably longer than people realize, and there's actually multiple types of AI. And so before I dive into some of the finer details of LLMs, I just want to touch on these different categories because when we talk about them, there's lots of different AI. So you may be familiar with in the early days of Amazon, the MLs, these predicting what you would buy or what you might want to buy. That's a type of AI that came out quite a 25 years or more ago. And then there's also, you might see people sending out kind of like fun images. Like we do that too. We play around with diffusion models. So we're not going to talk about that today, but we do like our Picasso Jack is kind of fun to play around with.
These are kind of old school AI, right? Like this is the kind of like if this, then this, maybe with a little bit of probabilities in there. But these are kind of like
Yeah.
this isn't the new exciting stuff that has come out seemingly overnight, or at least in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, the diffusion models is a little bit newer, but certainly the machine learning, if you've heard that term, that is very old, and that is not what everybody's been talking about the last 2 to 3 years. Really, you start to get into these large language models, which was a really big explosion in technology, and this is what's moving really, really fast. So that's the type of technology that helps you craft an email or makes your email better, or it does translation, and it can answer questions fairly well. And general, what do you call like general AI, general artificial intelligence? That's what we're talking about, and we're going to spend a bit of that time today talking about what that means. And then even further along is when you start to fine tune these models. So you want it to make it specific to our domain. We want to make it specific to higher education or your university, let's say. So we can even take that and apply some tuning to that I'm going to get into.
So you're going to
Um,
explain all this, right, James? And where does so when we hear generative AI, like creating content, is that really start from the LLM stage? Like that's a large
yeah,
language model. Is that are they connected?
yeah, that's exactly right. And in fact, um, that's a good transition into some of the concepts that I want to talk about. So when you hear these acronyms thrown out, or you kind of give you a little bit of basis like what's going on. And the first thing I like to do is say, okay, well, when you ask a model, a generative model, a question, how does this work? Um, it is kind of similar to autocomplete in what's going on. It's what it does is it takes that sentence that you built and it breaks it down to what they call tokens, or you can just think of it as words. And it says, okay, given this sentence, how can we support our daughter during move-in? What's the most likely next word or token to put in that sentence? And it'll pick one. And one of the interesting things about this is after it does that, it repeats the process again. So now it takes that whole string, adds in the move in, and says, okay, what is the next word that I should pick after that? And it's not always going to pick the top choice. It's sometimes going to randomly pick from the most likely. And that's why when we talk about large language models, and you will not get the same response twice because there's a little bit of built-in randomness. They found that kind of made the answers a little more interesting, and it feels like a little like it really knows you when it does that. So yeah, so that's basically what it's doing is over time, it's just feeding that back in and then keeps on completing the sentence until it comes up with an answer. So it doesn't really know things in the traditional sense, but all the math that's going on in the background certainly makes it feel like it knows the topic.
James, when I write, I have no idea what I'm going to write. So it's essentially doing similar what I'm doing, which is
Yeah,
it's starting and it's thinking along the way. And is that what an LLM is? That's the large language model, which is it's like how to think,
yeah.
what comes after these words.
Yeah, and a lot of things had to come in place for this to come together. Part of it is it's trained on the entirety of the internet, basically, and it just looks at that and it just learns these patterns, and it learns that when Dave says, what should I have for, it's going to say, well, the next word might be lunch or dinner, and that's kind of how it's doing that and answering that question.
I was going to say for happy hour, but okay, close enough,
Yes.
James.
And then, those were pretty incredible when they started showing the capabilities of what LLMs can do. And then people started coming up with techniques to fine tune them. And the important part there is you can then make an LLM smarter, if you will, to use kind of a metaphor. You can make it specific to your industry, your domain. And what I would like to do is kind of uh, explain, like, why would you do that? Well, out of the box LLMs, they're like generalists. They're very smart, but they don't know your campus. So, we're here in Philadelphia. They don't necessarily, they know a little bit about Temple, but it's not like tuned to be answer specific to Temple.
Temple University you're talking about, right?
Temple
Or Drexel
University
or
or
Penn.
Drexel or
And
any of
and
those.
just while I'm interrupting you, let me keep
Hmm.
on going. So the out of the box models, these LLMs, that is like Chat GPT, that is like Anthropic, Claude, and and
Claude.
and
Mhm.
and there's not that many of them, right?
Yeah, there it's I bet you will see like a consolidation over time because they do, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, is they cost quite a bit of money to train. So you've got Twitter slash X has their own, Amazon has their own, but there's not there's like half a dozen ones out there that people use regularly. But then when you start to fine tune them, you can make them smarter by saying, hey, when you're asked this question, it's specific to my university. So you're teaching them about your syllabus. You're teaching them how to respond in your voice. So when you ask Dave AI, it sounds like Dave, remarkably so. Um, and it also has some real positive side effects of good side effects, like reducing hallucinations. And hallucinations is because the LLM just knows to predict the next word in a sentence. It's going to be very confident and sometimes confidently wrong. We can reduce hallucinations by nudging it in particular directions to say, when you're talking about this in the context of higher ed, this is what we mean. We make
Confidently
it,
wrong does sound like me. So that is,
yeah,
and just taking a step back, the LLMs, they're just being trained off of, I mean, most times just the entire internet, right? They're
yeah,
scraping the entire, I mean, if that's a thing, and that's how they
yeah.
train.
Yeah. And I mean, it's scary. Like a lot of it is literally Reddit being and then there's I'm certain there's going to be more lawsuits about how they collect that information and so on. But yeah, that's what it's doing. It's just indexing everything to come up with that big database, if you will, of content. And then the voice part of it, as I mentioned, you can make it sound like you, whether you're like sarcastic or have side eye. I'm sure the Dave AI can replicate that, but it can also sound professional or however we want it to sound. And then efficiency, like I said, training a model from scratch, because you could say, why don't I just do it myself? These cost millions of dollars to do. So when we fine tune it, we can leverage all that work that's already been done, but also make it better and enhanced and specific to us, which is that's what we're gonna talk about. Another thing that I just want to touch on right now, and I'll get into a little bit of like how we get there later, but you might hear this term called agentic AI. And really, what that is it's using that same engine of the LLM, and we kind of create this loop. And this loop goes through several steps where these are the technical terms: perceive, reason, act, and observe. But I like to think of it slightly differently, and that is see, think, do, check. So when you have an agentic AI, the first thing it's going to do is you ask it a question. You might say, I'd like to send out an email to all parents whose child is about to graduate because I want to draft an email about what they should do to prepare for finding their first job. And what the AI, that's the scene part of it, is saying, okay, I see what you want to get done. And it's going to think about it and literally come up with a task list of what it needs to do. Depending on how much you've used AI, you might have seen this. If you ever see an AI say thinking, I need to A, B, and C, that's the think step. Then it actually does it. So it's going to take some type of action. It might do something to draft an email that you want to send out. And then after it does that one small step, it'll check and say, am I done yet? Is this complete? And if not, it just keeps on going into that cycle. And it'll repeat that process until the task is done. We'll talk a little bit more about agentic AI later, but it's definitely a very exciting area where it's not just a chatbot anymore. It can actually take action for you.
So do you
Makes
think,
sense?
James, like when you talk about agentic AI, you're talking like it's the next step. So the first
Yeah.
step right now is probably what people are used to, going into Chat GPT and prompting Chat GPT to take some, to answer some question, respond with text. But the next level is that Chat GPT is smart enough to see, think, do it on its own, and then check the results. And
Yep.
for a lot of people, probably if I could see them right now, they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. But the way that you get comfortable with it is probably through training and through a lot of extra information. It can't just be trained off of an LLM because there's not enough specific information that it can use to get the answers right, or to take actions that it's going to take actions on its own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you'll also hear a lot about, you might hear human in the loop, like I'm not illustrating in this example, but a lot of times that will be built in the process. There are safeguards that they put in that are AI driven and also human driven or human in the loop. So before it might take that action, it might confirm with you, do you want to schedule this appointment? Do you want to schedule this email? And then it'll complete the process.
So rather than students asking AI to do the homework for them, I suppose it could look at the syllabus, check their email, know what homework was due, and think that it needs to do the homework and do it for them automatically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But so that is kind of like the what. So in this first section, I wanted to kind of outline here the major, obviously I'm keeping this high level, but those are the major areas. The next thing, Mel, I don't know if you want, yeah, training for trust. So, okay, so how do we do this, right? So now I'm going to help familiarize us with some of the technology terms that you might hear, and I promise I won't get too deep in this. But we've got this great LLM, might be Claude, it might be ChatGPT, and we want to fine tune it. The first thing that we would do is we would create a vector database, or you may hear the term RAG, but essentially that is, if I have a bunch of documents, maybe I have the calendar for my school, or I have a bunch of Q&A, or the dates of like when's the important days, when do I need to enroll, when's the last day to drop a class, and I can apply some math techniques. That's why it's called a vector. It's not stored in words, and I put this in this database, and then what's really helpful is when I ask my question, I go to this RAG database, I retrieve pieces of data, pieces of text that are related to that. So that's why it's called retrieval augmented generation. I'm going to retrieve a bunch of documents. So I don't know, when I make this question, I might be able to go find a bunch of snippets, or if you see references, like that's where you see a lot of the references in your responses come from. I pull back that context and say, these are 4 pieces of information that may be related to this. And I feed that plus that prompt into the LLM. And then it can say, oh, I understand the context here, and I can give you a better answer. And that's the first part. And we haven't quite fine-tuned yet, but this is the first part about making a better model, if you will. Make sense?
Oh, also, I just got to call out your PowerPoint skills here. They are amazing and helpful animation. So basically what you're saying is when you're training the model, you take all the documents that you have that are important, maybe that you use on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It could be things like the course catalog. It could be the content that you set up for parents over the last year. It could be even, I guess, maybe parents talking to parents, or like whatever information you want. And then it makes the LLM smarter because it can pull that
Yeah.
information back.
Yeah, there's some strategies on selecting the right data. You generally are going to pick things that change often because you want to give the most up-to-date context. So yes, and you've got the overall concept right, is you take that information that is going to make this a better answer for the user. And stuff you probably already have today. And this is
Sorry,
where we
can you
start.
just repeat that last thing? You said something about me being right. I've got the overall concept right.
You got the concept right.
This is being,
Yeah.
Mel, this is being recorded, right? Okay, perfect.
No, Dave, you have a pretty good handle on this. And then the next thing, so you may hear supervised fine tuning. It sounds really fancy. And you may hear something called LoRa. It really doesn't matter that you recognize what that stands for. I can happy to tell you that it stands for low rank adaptation, but that's not really what's important. What's important is, let's say you've got a bunch of known questions and answers. So go back to, you were saying a discussion forum. So you've got a discussion forum. And one of the cool things about like our discussion forums or some of the other ones out there is they have up and down votes, which can usually indicate quality. And so if I take all of the good Q&A questions and answers, and I take the ones that are good, what I can do is I can put this in a little bit of technology, and this will tell the LLM to nudge things in a particular direction. It could be, you should talk this way now, or here are the right answers, or yes, I know James is more like a tuna and not like a salmon. And so if that question ever comes up, it'll nudge the answer in that particular direction. And that together, those two together, really can make a finely tuned LLM where, when you use the words register and credit, what do you think if you went to, ChatGPT? That what do you think? It's not necessarily going to think about registering for a class or the credits that you get for a class. But if you train it with this, it's going to understand, oh, this is somebody that is talking about higher education. This becomes pushed in a particular direction. So RAG is kind of like giving the LLM an open book so it can look up an answer. And then Laura is teaching it the specifics of your school, the accent, the tone to use, and it'll sound very authentic, or it'll sound like Dave AI. So you get the facts, the voice, and the trust by doing it this way versus your general AI. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to throw one last thing because we're going to touch on this briefly later on. And you may hear somebody talk about MCP. And if you want to impress your friends, you can say, oh, yes, I know what MCP is. And Model Context Protocol, remember I was talking about agents a while ago, MCP is kind of like your USB port on your computer. It is a way for you to connect your AI in a consistent way to other things. It's an API that allows you to connect it to your email or your calendar or a text system. So that you take everything that we've built and you see how we've kind of like built upon it. You then can have your agent, your agentic API. Now I'm not just talking back and forth. I'm not just producing words. I'm taking action. I'm sending that email out. I'm scheduling an event or creating an event form. That's what the MCP, Model Context Protocol, does for you.
So the LLM is kind of like the generic stuff. Then you personalize it with a LoRa, and then if you want to have it reference specific documents to call back, that's the vector database, which you might hear RAG. And then making it work with other things and making it more interoperable, that's MCP. And then you said one other thing about impressing your friends with these terms, which I have to really question your friend group. But all those are the main terms that we really hear today, right?
Yeah, and it's, of course, it's fairly fast changing, and a lot of this is relatively new as far as like MCP. I think is not even a year old, or maybe a year old. But yes, these are the major components whenever you hear people talking about AI these days.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're going to transition in the next section.
Well, before we do, oops. Mel jumped the gun there because I skipped something earlier. I wanted to go back into this Dave AI and open it up to just show how some of those that was cool. Show how some of the concepts are working. So let me share my screen real quick, and maybe and the reason why I'm sharing this is just to give you the idea that how all this is interconnected with this chatbot. So this is the same chatbot that I was in, this Dave AI that we named it here. And if I cracked it open, this is actually the technology that it uses. It uses something that's called Delphi. And here's where I guess, James, when I'm setting my bio, initial message, some instructions and stuff like that, this is kind of like a LoRa, I'm guessing, because I'm setting the profile, I'm setting the tone. It actually asked me to upload my voice and some video and stuff like that. But like,
and did you gave it all of your LinkedIn posts? That definitely was probably not most likely. I don't work for them, but most likely that's what happened, is that got put into something like Laura.
And then I was asked to go into this mind, and I had folders for customer success wins, my LinkedIn profile, demos, our Campus ESP website, news, podcasts, all this information. And it literally, like, there are videos in here, and it just scanned those videos, and it came up with, I guess I said 500,000 words. I feel like I could do better next time. And I just literally added that content in here. And this is probably creating, I guess, somewhat maybe that RAG database, and the system's actually training on it and letting me know when it needs attention. When it has something that it doesn't know how it should respond, it really just goes to me and asks the response. So I guess, James, this is kind of what, everything that you talked about here. It's definitely using LLM to like create the words and
Yeah.
the structure and the basic grammar, but then it's personalizing it using this content, which it kind of calls its mind, and it's pulling all these sources from
Yep.
across that I give it basically. So,
Yeah.
uh, okay,
Cool.
that's super helpful. All right, now, woo, okay. So, so this next section is about making sure that you still have ROI on any kind of investment that you make with AI. People who have known me for a while, people who work with me at Campus ESP know this is my favorite thing to ask, which is what problem do you need to solve? This is like where everything starts with Campus ESP. And if you hit the button once more there, James, I mean, we really build features on top of features on top of features to support your needs by asking this question. So we have a customer advisory board. We have lots of people who reach out to me and James and Brooke and Leslie, and that's how all technology is built. It's not anything unique to Campus ESP. And a good example of that is the iPhone. This is the iPhone, really dating myself here. This is the original iPhone. I remember how excited I was to get it. It has like an actual button on it. You can click the build there. But when the iPhone was released, it was released in 2007. It did not have, as many people know, a copy feature. It did not have copy and paste. So basic features that you felt like, probably copy and paste is something everybody would expect to be released. It wasn't released until 2 years later. So the iPhone came out, there was no copy and paste. That came out 2 years later. You can see the iPhone came out before the App Store, before Siri. James can keep on going, two more. Even things like the custom lock screen only came out a couple of years ago. Although when you think about an iPhone, you probably think, oh, this has all been there since the very beginning. But the way technology is built is it is always staggered like this. So some of the stuff that James is talking about with AI is just building off of that model. Like James, what were those early technologies? I think you said, was it machine learning?
Machine learning, yeah. Then and that goes well before Amazon, but I would say like we saw that on the web probably in the early 2000s.
Okay. So, I mean, this is literally an evolution of technology. And sometimes technology moves really fast, like it's moving really fast right now. Right, James, you and I always talk about like, I cannot believe how quickly it's moving. And sometimes we want to slow it down because it's moving too fast for customers or for an audience. So where we're at today from a campus ESP perspective, just to use ourselves as an example, is we've been around for 10 years. James, I cannot believe it's been 10 years. From one customer to 450 customers over 10 years, but that has been an evolution as well. So I'm going to talk about that and relate it back to AI, and then we'll have open questions here. So you know, the next slide. So over those 10 years, we didn't roll out everything all at once, just like AI isn't rolling everything out all out at once. We started with a problem. The starting problem for campus ESP that we solved was parent expectations are increasing. I know you guys all feel this, and colleges need help keeping pace, keeping up. And then we also saw this problem, which is students rely on parents for advice more than ever, but parents are not always informed, or they're getting information from the wrong sources. So that's really what we started with Campus ESP. That is what was version one, a parent database. Oh, slow down, slow
Oh.
down, slow down, James. Trigger happy over there. So parent database, content management portal for you early customers. I can see a couple of you out there. We actually, the first version of Campus ESP did not have a calendar. And that wasn't until we kind of went through our own fine tuning where schools were like, look, parents need to access the academic calendar or information more easily. And then the problems that we solved expanded. Now you can click, James, here. And just like we're seeing AI evolve, we've added more features to Campus ESP to focus on student retention and student enrollment, things like parent promoter score, CRM integration, funnels. And then recently, we've been getting more into parent giving as well. You click the next button there. And then you pressure, these are all problems that we're solving. So we're evolving along with it. And you can see that last bullet right there is generative AI editor. We do have AI functions in Campus ESP, and I want to talk about how that becomes the basis to grow from there. So one thing that's been happening here, if you click once more, James, is it feels like the pace has increased for AI, and you're probably feeling like parent expectations are increasing again, right? They want instant answers. That's why these chatbots have become so popular. And that might be something else that you're trying to keep pace with. So even though you have all these other problems that you're trying to solve, it feels like the pace in keeping up with technology now is highlighted. So we want to talk about that as it relates to family engagement and how AI plays a role there. So the cool thing is, if you are a Campus ESP customer, or if you've been working on your parent engagement platform or strategy for a while, if you click once more there, James, you probably have a basis for knowledge, that RAG database, right? You have data on 15 million families. So in Campus ESP, for example, you have click and engagement data, you have comments, discussion, you have success metrics, and we've already connected that to an LLM, right? James, which LLM is it? Is it like how does that work?
Yeah, we use a couple. So we've used OpenAI, which is what drives ChatGPT. Amazon also has another one that we're using in the discussion forums. So and we like they all are slightly specialized. So I anticipate we'll probably pull in others as well. But those are the two top ones that we use today.
So in this case, we're connecting Campus ESP and you're able to send families what you believe they need. And you can use the AI content editor, which is like embedded in the core
Yep.
to improve your content generation efficiency, right? So that's already in there with some prompt engineering. In the second stage,
Oh,
it's kind of like what we've been sharing with this Dave AI, which is, I guess, James, what's this next stage coming up?
yeah, so this is actually what we're actively working on is working on a chatbot that is doing exactly what I showed in that other picture. It's going to have a RAG database, and we will fine tune over top of that to make it sound like your voice. But we're going to start, just like I was saying before, we're going to start with a RAG database. We're probably going to use, if you ever heard the term Amazon Bedrock, that's the LLM that we're starting with. That doesn't mean it will necessarily end with that one. And we are going to use LoRa on top of that. But that is going to make it so that if a family member, like instead of searching for something, because that's historically how, that's where Google's having to make some adjustments now too, is because used to be that you were responsible for finding that information. Like Dave was saying before, getting that access immediately. What we wanted to do is we want you to be able to ask your question in a natural language, and the family could say, what should I bring? What should I send my son to school with this fall? Especially if you're a first generation family member, you might not know. And so we're going to make that take that general LLM, make it specific to your institution, and start with fine tuning and building kind of a built-in chatbot.
And then the third piece here is the agentic AI. And that's where that MCP comes into place. And this is about the AI knowing about what works based off of the history in either the Campus ESP database or other things that you add to it, or if you have other databases beyond Campus ESP, you're able to summarize that and you're able to train it so it can take actions based off of stuff that you would do. It's like having an agent. I always say it
Yeah.
like kind of like a lot of the agents that I see out there are like something a teenager could do, but like it's getting better and better. And then eventually it can deliver what I see a lot of vendors calling hyper personalized content, which is just more content that's personalized instead of to communities of parents, to individual parents. But all of this, I would say, James, is on a base of data. Like the data is the most important thing. So
Yeah.
if you've made investments like the Campus ESP or in parent engagement overall, if you've made those investments, you can leverage them forward. And I mean, I don't want to like demean the technology, but this is the chatbots and the agents are already existing technology. So it's more about wiring them in there so that they actually solve problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think you even said it pretty, you alluded to it earlier about asking how many chatbots out there. It's not like we're gonna need to have hundreds of them. What we need is then to fine tune them and make it specific to your domain to make sure that we're getting the right content that's specific to, whether it's Temple University or Texas State or whatever, making it very specific and leveraging one of those specific ones. And then yes, hooking up other connecting that USB so that so that agentic API can then do something even more for you.
All right, cool. So next up is that problem of scale is eventually going to go away for everybody. Right now, everything is new, fast moving. AI is everywhere. It's 2025, 2025 is crazy, and on top of that, you add in AI, and it's the pace of technology. But these other problems around solving retention, enrollment, giving, they're going to come back to the forefront. Now, you might feel like they're still there, but that issue of scale is going to settle back down. All these problems are likely going to still be there at the end of this AI movement that you're feeling right now. And then one more build here is all of that stuff. Might have to press it one more time. I might have over-engineered this. So what problem do you need to solve? It's all about building trust with your tech and with your family. So a lot of this is it's tech built on top of tech, built on top of tech, but it's also your time and your investment built on top of that. And that's important because at the end of the day, you're trying to support families, you're trying to solve all these problems at the top, probably a lot more than that. And the tech should be helping you. And a lot of this is foundational. Like if you have a CRM, you're building on top of the CRM. If you have an SIS and you're using Banner, I apologize, but if you have an SIS, you're building on top of that. And so a lot of this stuff is becoming foundational. The chatbot technology is nothing like amazing. The agentic technology is nothing that amazing. It's the data that it connects to. And James, you mentioned we're building personalized chatbots, which isn't even been announced yet, but like the time frame for that is pretty near term, right?
Yeah, we're certainly within 12 months, probably sooner than that, because like you said, the components are there, and we're just making sure that we're not only doing it responsibly, but we're doing it in a way that's appropriate for our audience and our domain. And it's all the components are there, as you were saying. So it'll move very quickly for us as well.
James told me 6 months for the chatbot, in case you were wondering. So the agents may be a little bit longer. So all of that hopefully provides a good context for how tech can solve problems and why the ROI is still really important. Lots of the AI companies that we see out there right now, they're all based off of number of emails sent. They're not necessarily solving problems because they don't have results yet. And so it'll be interesting to see how that evolves over the next 6 months, let's say. All right, next section, final section. We're a little bit over. That's not surprising when James and I are invited. Oh my goodness! All right, it's a showdown. It's a robot versus human showdown. Let's see if we can get this going on. So we have Mel Greiner. She's managing Dave AI, which is, I don't know, easier than managing me. I don't know. You let me know. But so how are we going to do this? Yep, she's talking on mute, maybe. She's coming in here. All right, here we go. You can see this is well practiced. All right, so she has a chatbot window open up. It's me versus this AI. Wow, she's got rid of James. It's like, and what's the first question here that I have to answer? We'll see which one answers it better. It's gonna be the Dave AI. Mel, what do you think?
I was trying to avoid myself actually being on screen here. So the first question for you guys, though, is how does engaging parents and families during the admissions process impact student enrollment decisions?
Okay, so parents are very influential during the admission process. Students rely on their parents for information, and we often call it nudging the nudgers. When you send information to parents, they can send it to their students, whether that's scheduling a visit, completing their application. And oftentimes we see this have a direct impact on yield, around 7% from our recent case studies, which is when you engage parents, we see from 6 schools in our case study, yield is on average 7% higher. So what did the chat, or what did the Dave AI say?
So similar things, but he also referenced 3 different data studies to back his information up here.
All right, and those pulling in James here for a moment, those little those references that's probably the RAG database there,
That's
right?
probably
James?
the RAG database. It beat your brain database and references there. So
My brain database is doing the best it can right now. Okay, let's try another one. That might go to the Dave AI. Mel, you have another one here?
I do. What are the most effective communication strategies for reaching families of first-generation college students?
Okay, well, families of first generation college students often have technology as a barrier. So many times schools will leverage text messaging to kind of uh, make it a little bit inclusive from getting the information out to them. So we see a lot of our first generation families prefer text messaging over things like parent portal over as a pretty high as a pretty high preference. So what did this say?
Text messaging, first thing.
All right. Keep texting. And then it gave some advice. Keep text under 160 characters. Keep email weekly. Yeah, build a family portal. All right. So pretty good there. All right. Very thorough. We're finding out this is very, very thorough. Mel, you want to do a couple more and then we'll wrap things up?
Yeah, next one for you guys. Is there evidence that involving families improves student retention and persistence rates?
Yes, there is. We have studies that show that when families are involved, students have higher retention rates. We have a case study of about 10 schools recently where the retention rate for students that had family engagement was 6% higher. And it's higher because the portal Campus ESP sends out nudges on things like financial aid, student status changes, and holds. And we've seen a direct correlation with increasing retention when you send these types of early alerts to parents so that they can get more involved and support students. Let's see. Yes, a single, strong, consistent. I think this is actually referring to some dated material, which is pretty interesting. So this is where I would have to go in and train it.
yeah.
So I would actually have to give this one to me, James, even though I was.
We got 2-1.
It's 2-1. 2-1.
Can't replace you just yet.
No. Okay. Let's do one more, and then we'll wrap up this session. See if there's any questions from the audience here.
Humans versus us. What challenges do institutions face when trying to balance student independence with family involvement?
I think everybody has their own definition of what student independence should be and what family involvement should be. And it varies by state, it varies by school, it varies by department, it varies by individual. So it's a very personal question. But one thing is for sure is that when families are involved, we see higher rates of student success. Come on, I gotta get this one. This is too tough for the Dave AI. I know it.
A little verbose this time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of want to give this one to you because I think you answered the question more. This kind of just danced around it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. There's less references here, James, right?
Yeah.
So it's less personalized. It's probably using more of the LLM than it is using Campus ESP, right?
Yeah, it's probably, it doesn't seem to have quite as much context as the other ones. So I think I'd give this one to you. Your answer is a bit more direct.
All right, I appreciate it. So we can say human versus robot. It's a tie for right now. I'd say it's gaining on me. I am concerned about it. And we'll see if there's any questions in the chat. But hopefully, for those of you who have to jump, thanks for joining us. Hopefully this was insightful. Demystifying AI, it really is the next feature in a technology platform. Campus ESP is growing in that direction, and we want to support you best we can. This Dave AI was just kind of fun, a tool to test it out, and it's nice to see that I'm not replaced quite yet. But if you have any questions, we'll stick around for a couple more minutes, try to answer them for you. I don't know, James, what was your favorite part of this presentation now looking back on it?
Ooh. I like it when you ask questions, because it gives me it feels like I can go into a little bit of an explainer mode and not just hear myself talk, but because I will talk about the technology side um, until you tell me to shut up, because it's very interesting, very fun to talk about everything that's been changing the last few years.
When AI first came out, we were very overwhelmed, right? I mean, we really wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it took me a little time to even warm up, because, in technology, everything's changing all the time. You're like, is this just another fad? And as we dove into it more and as it got even better, I'm sorry, Dave, but this is the worst it's ever going to be. So if it's 50-50 now, I can't wait to see what it's going to be like in a year or two. So now it's part of my daily, like I think every day I use it in some way or another.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up. Thanks again for your time, everyone. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us afterwards. The recording, all the information will be sent to you. But thank you very much for your time, and have a great Thursday. Is it Thursday? No, yeah, Thursday.
Thursday.
Off to Ask AI. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you guys.